Hello, folks! So, as we all know, Captain America Civil War is coming out soon. I know a lot of people, including myself, are really excited for this movie, and like many others, I have pored over the three main Civil War trailers that have come out so far, and using them, some news articles, and my own logical deductions, I have come up with some theories as to how the movie will play out. And make sure to stay till the end of the video because I've saved my best theory for last. And of course, before I get started, I guess I kinda gotta point out that you should watch the rest of this video at your own peril because there will be some spoilers, but, nothing you couldn't find out by looking at images of toys for the movie or by reading news articles. And there will also be potential spoilers, and by that I mean that if my theories happen to be right, then I guess they'll be spoilers, technically. But my theories probably aren't right. They definitely weren't for Age of Ultron. Anyway, so, yeah, you've been warned. Okay. So my first theory, and some other YouTubers have beat me to this, but I did in fact come up with this on my own, is that Abomination might turn up in this movie. Now, starting with the basics, we know that the Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton is undeniably canon due to the fact that General Ross will be appearing as Secretary of State in this movie. I don't know why, but some people just did not like the Incredible Hulk movie and wanted to argue that it never happened. But it did! So ha! Anyway, because the Incredible Hulk movie happened, we know that Abomination, aka Emil Blonsky, is still alive. At the end of that movie, Abomination was not killed, he was captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. and brought to some unknown jail. Now, I don't know about you, but you need a pretty strong jail to hold that guy since, he has the strength of Hulk. And so far in any of the movies, we've only seen one place where they could have stored him, and that's the glass cage from the helicarrier in the first Avengers movie. But of course, Abomination was not contained there, so where is he? Well, wherever he's contained, it would have to be somewhere away from civilization so that if he escaped, S.H.I.E.L.D. would have plenty of time to catch him before he could hurt anyone. Oh, wait! Look at this place they revealed in the third trailer for Cap 3! It's right in the middle of the ocean, and it looks a little creepy and as tough to break out of as anything. Honestly, it's like Marvel's version of Azkaban. Azkabaner? Anyway, the point is, it looks like a jail meant to hold supervillains, or possibly heroes as well, once the fighting for Civil War starts. But wait, I have another reason as to why Abomination will show up. I remember reading an article, I forgot where from by now, that talked about an interview with the Russo brothers, who stated that they really needed to bring Ross into this movie. They pulled hard to get Ross to be in it, when they could have had any other character from the government show up. Some might argue that they wanted Ross in it so that they could introduce his son, Everett Ross, who'll play an important role in the Black Panther movie/movies. That is a point, but I don't believe that would be enough to make the Russo brothers need Ross to be in the movie. Just like with Ross, they could have replaced his son with any other character and it wouldn't have mattered. Martin Freeman could have been playing Bilbo Baggins for this movie and it could have worked. Probably. But my point being, they didn't need Everett Ross, so why else would they need Ross to be in the movie? Well, that way they could definitely tie in the Incredible Hulk movie with the rest of the MCU, and by doing that, they could also then reach back and use any of the other characters from the movie that they wanted. And Abomination is definitely a useful character to bring back in the MCU. Now, he could just make a cameo in this movie and then become more vital in Infinity Wars, or maybe Cap or Iron Man take him out of jail in order to gain an advantage in Civil War. Since Iron Man has the Hulkbuster, which is basically like having Hulk himself on Tony's team, Cap might break Abomination out to even the sides, or maybe Tony breaks Abomination out because he's tired of the war going on for so long and wants Abomination to fight on his side under government supervision. So yeah, that's one theory. Another theory I have is how I think the Russos will handle the Hulkbuster, because, as we've heard from interviews so far, the Russos didn't want Banner in this movie because whoever's side he would be on would automatically win. And of course Thor can't be in the movie because he's doing Odin knows what up in space. And that leaves the Vision and Scarlet Witch, who appear from the trailers to be evenly matched, and they're on either side, so the teams appear to be balanced. Well, sort of. I mean, Iron Man's team seems to have a wee bit of an advantage, but who knows how things will turn out. But the glaring plot hole, at least for now, until we see the movie, is that Tony Stark has a Hulkbuster suit, as seen in Avengers 2, which actually won in a fight with the Hulk. That means Tony's team basically does have the Hulk, so how in the world can Cap's team win when Iron Man has such a powerful suit? And why doesn't Tony just wear it all the time when in dangerous situations? If he had it, he could easily subdue Cap's team in the airport fight. Now, one might argue that he wouldn't want to kill Cap's team with the suit, Okay, but why can't he still wear it and fight gently? Look what happens to Rhodes. That could have happened to Tony. He needs the protection. In Age of Ultron, Tony also has a flying metal cage that apparently is strong enough to hold the Hulk. Why can't he just cage in all of Cap's team and then call on S.H.I.E.L.D. to capture them? Well, I have possible answers. As for the cage thing, Scarlet Witch does seem to have the ability to bend metal. Like Magneto! Comic book reference. Anyway, so she could probably break her team out of the cage, no problem. And Ant-Man is apparently, as far as we know, becoming Giant Man in this movie, so he could just grow and throw the cage off. But what about the Hulkbuster? Well, like I said, Scarlet Witch is evenly matched with Vision, so she'll have her hands full fighting him, who, mind you, is equally as important as the Hulkbuster. Because, following the transitive property, if Vision is as strong as Thor, and Thor is as strong as the Hulk, and the Hulk is as strong as the Hulkbuster, then Vision must be as strong as the Hulkbuster. So, who else could fight the Hulkbuster while Scarlet Witch is fighting Vision? Well, I believe that will be handled by Ant-Man, who we've seen can easily infiltrate the suits and mess them up. So my theory is that Tony might try to use the suit once in the film, but end up getting it destroyed because it's too vulnerable to Ant-Man. And it would be more vulnerable than his regular suits because it's slower and bigger than his other suits, with more spaces in between the different pieces of metal, leaving plenty of space for Ant-Man to pull out wires and cause a lot of damage. Okay, now I shall move on to my biggest theory. So what started me off on this theory is this picture here from the second trailer, which shows Cap and Iron Man fighting in a place, and over on the right there is what appears to be Bucky in a pod or something, exactly the same as the one he's seen in the beginning of the big game spot. But what's confusing is it can't be Bucky because he's right there. So something's up. Either that's someone else in there, or they're cloning Bucky. Now, I've heard some rumors so far that the person in the pod might be Quicksilver or Baron Zemo, and I guess there's no way to definitively disprove that because you can't see the person, but I don't buy that. Instead, I believe that they are actually cloning the Winter Soldier, and now here's the proof to back this. First of all, the technology is definitely there. As we've seen in Avengers 2, Helen Cho has created machines that can create synthetic tissue, living tissue created artificially by a computer. She's even able to create an entire human body using nothing but the machine, and some vibranium provided by Ultron, but that's not required. So it is absolutely possible for Hydra to have attained this technology and is now able to make more Winter Soldiers, assassins created to be physically fit and to have a mind made to serve Hydra. And since Hydra has Arnim Zola on its computer databases, they have the information they need to recreate Arnim's experiments on Bucky in order to make these machine-created Winter Soldiers as physically powerful as Bucky. Furthermore, cloning Bucky would be very useful to Hydra considering that it lost its original copy. As we saw at the end of Cap 2, Bucky has gone into hiding to try to remember his past, and by the time Civil War rolls around, Bucky will have been missing for 2 years. And it is clear that Bucky has not been found by either Hydra or the Avengers. As Cap and Falcon mention in Age of Ultron, they still haven't found any leads on their missing person case, and from the looks of Bucky, it appears he hasn't been found by Hydra either, because A, if he had been captured by Hydra, they wouldn't have lost him again, and B, Bucky's carrying around a backpack that, according to Sebastian Stan, is filled with notebooks that he filled with memories so that he could never lose them again, and he would never have had time to write in all those books if he had been captured. So, assuming Bucky has indeed remained off the radar until Cap 3, then Hydra will have waited way too long to get its Winter Soldier back. Instead, Hydra would have created its own new Winter Soldiers, hence the multiple pods seen in the Civil War trailers. And while growing their own assassins, it would make sense to use Bucky as a clone for several reasons. First of all, using the same DNA for almost every grown assassin would just be easier. And they already had Bucky's DNA from doing tests on him for so long. Secondly, they know that Bucky's body can withstand the experiments to make him super tough. And thirdly, they would want the Winter Soldier to keep the same face, because that would add more fear and credibility to the myth of the Winter Soldier. If people saw the Winter Soldier being played by multiple people, the name wouldn't retain its stigma of what past people with the name did. So Hydra is cloning Bucky Barnes, giving all the clones a metal arm, and then doing tests on them to make them super. A lot of people believe that this shot here is a flashback of Bucky because he is noticeably missing his Russian red star on his shoulder. But my theory means that this is not a flashback, but a new Bucky clone that Hydra has created to carry out its missions. But this isn't even the first clone seen in the movie. No! This is a clone that Cap discovers in a Hydra base near the end of the movie. The first clone is seen earlier in the movie and is the cause of the explosion at the UN building that makes everyone blame the real Bucky. You see, what's very important to notice in the trailers is when you can see Bucky's red star. Because if you don't see it, then you can't be sure that it's really him. If he doesn't have a red star, like in this shot, he's a clone. If he definitely has a star, like here, then he's Bucky. So in shots like this, we don't know. And that is Hydra's plan. Here's why I believe this. The Civil War movie will start off, I predict, with both Hydra and the Avengers having both finally tracked Bucky down to somewhere in Africa. And Hydra has captured Bucky, and since they know he'll be hard to control now that he's gotten his memory back, they decide to use him as bait. They capture him and possibly use a sonic taser, like from Iron Man 1, to make him go limp for a while, and then they leave him stuck in a building with his hand in a vice, knowing that after his clone attacks the UN building, the police will come after him and have him executed. They dress him and his clone up in the same clothes, and then have his clone go to the UN building. First, his clone attacks Tony Stark, who is present at the UN meeting about Sokovia. It would make sense that he's there because he caused the whole Ultron problem. Also, it wouldn't make sense that Bucky would shoot Tony, considering that he says that he doesn't do that anymore. That would make him the biggest hypocrite. So this here is not Bucky, but his clone. Notice you can't see the star? So then after this, he causes a ruckus and everyone freaks out. He then fights Agent 13, who somehow is able to fight him without dying and without weapons. If this were the real Bucky, who has super strength, then this kick shouldn't have hurt him, and he should have been able to kill her easily. And he could have killed Tony as well. He wouldn't have needed a gun. He would have just strangled him to death. But if this were Bucky's clone, then it would make sense, because Hydra wouldn't waste its time making its clone super strong if its main purpose is just going to be to suicide bomb a UN meeting. Also, why wouldn't Bucky just snipe Tony like he'd done so many times before as an assassin? Unless this was Bucky's clone, who was trying to make a scene to get people mad at the real Bucky. So all of this chaos ensues, and clone Bucky eventually gets to the meeting and blows it up. He also blows himself up. Why? Because there can't be two of him at the scene of the crime. The clone needs to blow up so that he won't be found, and that the real Bucky, who's captured in a building nearby, can be framed. So Cap and Falcon get the real Bucky out using Ant-Man's help, and then Bucky is chased away by the police and Black Panther, who saw his clone blow up the UN meeting. And then, of course, the whole Civil War starts around this planned incident that Hydra implemented. And while we're on the topic of clones, here's one more theory I have. I believe that Black Widow might also be a clone. There is the possibility that between the events of the Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron, Natasha was captured by Hydra. Hydra then used her to make a clone that they experimented on to make the clone super strong like the Winter Soldier. Then Hydra sent the clone Natasha back to the US to keep working for the Avengers, intending to use her as a spy in the Avengers so that they have an advantage. Obviously, having her as a spy did not work as well as they'd hoped because Stark's technology was so great that the Avengers were able to find Strucker's Hydra base before they could finish their experiments there and evacuate the area. Nevertheless, Nat's clone will come in handy for Hydra in the Civil War movie because she will be able to stir things up between the fighting Avengers to make the situation even worse. By taking Stark's side in the fight, which wouldn't have made sense for the real Nat that we saw last in Cap 2, the clone Nat is able to get close to Tony and rile him up and make him more paranoid so that he'll continue the fight. Then at the end of the movie, when the Civil War has taken its toll on the heroes, the clone Nat can come out of hiding and try to murder Tony or Steve. Now, I have two reasons for believing that this Natasha clone theory is a possibility. 1. Natasha did not seem like herself in Age of Ultron. First of all, she started flirting with Bruce out of nowheres, and even he was surprised as to how all of a sudden it was. Steve mentioned to Bruce that he'd seen Nat pretend to flirt up close before, and that what she was doing with Bruce wasn't fake. Well, maybe Nat's flirting in Age of Ultron didn't appear to Steve like her flirting from Cap 2, because it was a different person flirting altogether. In Age of Ultron, it was Nat's clone flirting with Bruce, not the real Nat. And the reason she would be flirting with Bruce is because Hydra wants the Avengers to get rid of the Hulk so they will be more easily defeated. With Bruce always around, they have no chance, but if the clone Nat can make Bruce fall in love with her and then run away with her, then she can keep him away from the Avengers. Secondly, she didn't seem like herself in Age of Ultron because of this shot right here, which really bugged the heck out of me. Somehow she is able to ride on the Hulk's back as he jumps hundreds of feet in the air as he jumps in a zigzag pattern on rocks. And then when he lands on Sokovia, she flies off his back and rolls on the ground going like 40 miles an hour. If she was a regular human, she should have died. There is no way a regular human could have held onto the Hulk's back as he jumped up, and there's no way a regular human could have been rolled on the ground going 40 miles per hour and gotten up as if nothing happened. She literally got up and had no bruises. She was just a little achy. But if she were the Natasha clone with superhuman strength, then it is absolutely possible that she could have done this and been okay. Number 2. My second reason that I believe this theory is possible is due to the IMDb website, which gives a list of a lot of the cast. One woman named Heidi Moneymaker is listed as playing Super Soldier 3. What's interesting is that Heidi Moneymaker has acted in Marvel movies before. She has been the stunt double for Natasha Romanoff for every single movie. So Heidi will undoubtedly be the stunt double for Black Widow again in Civil War, but the fact that she also has the role as Super Soldier 3 means that the Black Widow character and the Super Soldier 3 character are probably very similar in physical appearances for her to be able to play both. So it makes sense that the Super Soldier 3 is a clone of Natasha, because then Heidi would have to be the stunt double for that character as well, since even though it's a different character, it's still played by Scarlett Johansson. And that fits in with the rest of my theory, because Natasha's clone will be the last clone to be revealed in the movie, thus number 3. The first clone will be the Bucky clone that blows up the UN building, and the second will be the Bucky clone found in the pod at the Hydra base. Now, people might have some arguments against this Natasha clone theory, so let me combat some of those right now. Someone might argue that, why would the clone attack the Hydra base in the beginning of Age of Ultron if she's with Hydra? Well, she obviously can't blow her cover. It's more important for her to stay undercover in order to give Hydra information. And thus, if the Avengers asked her to come with them to attack, she can't just say no, because that would seem odd for the real Nat to say. Someone also might argue, well, why couldn't she tell the Hydra base that the Avengers were going to attack? My answer to that is that she probably did, but Hydra was just overconfident. Strucker obviously thinks at the beginning of Age of Ultron that the base is impenetrable. When the Avengers are attacking, he asks why soldiers were sent out to fight back, implying their defenses are enough to hold until they can escape. Jarvis also notes that the shield around the base is stronger than anything the Avengers have dealt with before. Another argument against this theory could be to point out that the clone Natasha decides not to run away with Bruce while the battle is happening on Sokovia, even when Bruce asks her to go away with him. The answer to this is that if Ultron wasn't stopped, everyone on Earth would have died, including Hydra. So Clone Nat had to bring Bruce back to the fight as the Hulk so that Ultron could be defeated. But then, of course, after the battle, the Hulk flies away to where no one can find him, basically doing Clone Nat's job for her so that she can stay with the Avengers and provide more information for Hydra. So, those are all the theories I have worth telling. I mean, I also have a theory about how the Soul Gem or Time Gem could fit into Civil War, but I honestly am almost 100% certain that there will be no gems in Civil War, except for the Mind Stone and Vision's head, of course. So I'm not going to even bother telling you that theory. Civil War already appears like it's going to be jam-packed with stuff, so throwing in Infinity Stones would probably be a bit much. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and if you have any qualms with my theories, please feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to write back to you. Please like this video, and don't bother subscribing. Please, just don't subscribe. Don't do it. And I guess we'll find out on May 6th whether my theories are right or not. They're probably not. See ya!